Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you all to this episode of the Men's Room. And today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be having our panel of men answer the question about how intimacy is achieved in their relationships. So, that whole role that sex and intimacy plays. And first, before we get started, I'd like to introduce all of the members of our panel. And so I've got Josh Gershon, and he is a men's coach and educator. I've got men's empowerment coach, RJ Horner. I've also have with us tonight, Steve Alley, quantum coach. And so with that, I want to explain a little bit about why we're here tonight. And so the Men's Room is a weekly show that creates a space for men to feel safe expressing their emotions in a vulnerable way. It is a place where men can come to be seen, heard, and acknowledged without feeling judged or afraid to show sides of themselves that are different than society's expectations. We aim to educate, inspire, empower, and advocate. Our show was created out of inspiration from my role as an International Men's Day USA ambassador and member of the Voice of Men 360 nonprofit organization. These organizations exist for the purpose of providing support services for boys and men to overcome life challenges. I've invited Josh to join us in framing up our panel discussion. And will you begin by sharing how you view men's approach to vulnerability in relationships?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Linda. First off, thanks for having me. It's great to be here with you and Steve and RJ as well. Before I even frame that up, I would love to just actually take a step back and tell the story of, a conversation that you and I had a couple of weeks ago that maybe helped even frame up this entire episode, which is something that I heard on, it was YouTube. I found like a Trevor Noah clip. I believe it was from The Daily Show. And he was talking to his audience about the fact that apparently today men in their 30s are having less sex than they've ever had before. And the audience is like laughing, right? As if he was doing a bit, but he wasn't really doing a bit. He was like really trying to shed serious light on the fact that deeper in the fact that men might not be having as much sex as they've ever had, and there's some kind of like collective uproar and the masculine about that or whatever it might be. He was making a point behind the theory that it might not actually be about sex that men are actually craving. It might be about intimacy that they're craving, and that it's only through the act of sex or intercourse or some sort of sexual behavior that it's been conditioned or that it's been acceptable for men to experience intimacy. So he went on to say, like maybe it's actually intimacy that men are craving in addition to sex. And where can intimacy be found outside of the bedroom? Can it be found in friendships? Can it be found in platonic friendships with women? Can it be found in other friendships with males? Can it be found, in our work relationships, in our familial relationships, right? And so it became more about intimacy than sex and other places that men can access intimacy. So I say that first because the story that or the anecdote that I'm about to mention about male friendship or male relationship is one that without that connection might at a high level seem like, well, how is this connected to also sex and intimacy? Because the anecdote that I'm referring to is, and I forgot where I heard this either I read in a book or heard in a podcast or something of the sort. But it talks about how actually going back to war, like going back to like the trenches of war, men's relationships, a bulk of men's relationships were formed as side by side interaction, versus where a lot of, generally female to female relationships you'll see are face to face. And so like how that has evolved into our culture today is if you think about the way that a lot of men spend time together in friendship, it's a side-by-side activity, right? It's like playing video games or watching sports or going to a sporting event or going to strip clubs, right? Or like things that are done side by side. It's very much like we're spectating something and we're shoulder to shoulder versus face to face, eye to eye, heart to heart. And so, question that I'm interested in, that I'm sure we'll talk more about in the space, is like, how does that play into men's ability to access intimate spaces in other ways, right? Just in life in general. How does that create or not create access to intimacy? And what would the world be like? What would male relationships be like? Right? How would that impact our romantic relationships, sexual relationships, friendships, so on and so forth, if we were spending more heart-to-heart time with other people?
And I really like how you put that together, because as soon as you had said it when we were talking, I'm like, yeah, you're right. It is more of a side by side for men and a face to face for women. And so, there's that bridge that can be built between the two ways that the interaction happens. And so going down and exploring what that could look like. And I really like how you've also said it's more than just in these romantic interpersonal relationships. It can be in all relationships where you build that intimacy. And if you're building it there, then you're building it everywhere. And it becomes this thing that's this more natural thing to do rather than trying to fit into your life in a certain like expected way.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what you guys, RJ and Steve, how that lands with you and what that makes you think about as well.
Well, for me, it resonates really well for a few reasons. Something that I saw a lot in my practice is that, well, a lot of men are complaining they don't get enough emotional connection in some way, that they get, their women tell them that they are always thinking about the same thing and that they don't have their head straight on, that they need to get their head out of the gutter. It doesn't seem that men can actually communicate that it's their way of connecting to their partner. So to me, that comes up a lot. But what makes sense about what you said is my worst relationship was actually with a woman who was always by my side. So I never connected face to face, heart to heart. So it's we were a lot in competition. It was more like having a friend. So I can see where that went wrong with what you said. It resonates so well. Seriously, I find it really interesting what you said.
Absolutely.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, it's go ahead. Sorry, RJ.
Go ahead, Josh. Well, no, what were you going to say? I'd love to
No,
hear
I
your
just
comments.
just wanted to to acknowledge, Steve, what you said, and to reflect back, not only what you hear from other men, but what you've experienced yourself in that relationship. It's an interesting thing to think about, right? Like, before I had heard this framed to me in this way of like the historical manifestation over time of like this side by side versus face to face relationship. It's something that you don't really think about necessarily until you hear it, because it just feels like the way things are, right? Until someone shines a light on it, and you go, "Oh, this kind of makes sense. This is something I have been doing that I didn't notice." And it's also not to say that like side by side, male friendship relationship activities are bad either, right?
Yeah.
This is certainly not to say like we should stop going to sporting events together, or playing video games or whatever. Like, those things are great too, and time and place for them. It's just another dynamic to think about bringing into relationship. So yeah, thank you for for sharing your side of it.
Absolutely. And you know what? I have to agree. I never would have considered the side by side versus face to face angle of it. It just isn't something I would have noticed. Perhaps I'm a little more in touch with my feminine side, in that I'm all about face to face. I'm all about, you know, direct, intimate conversations. I love talking to people, just back and forth interaction between people. So I'm very much a face to face type person. That's not to say, you know what, growing up, I had my boys and I miss my boyhood friends. You know what I mean? Because you're right. We always challenged each other. We pushed each other. We were there, um, nudging each other, right? So we needed that. Um, but I will say, I think I have great friendships, in that I do have these interactions. I do want to be intimate with people. I want to get to know people. So I reach out to people, even in my social circle. We all kind of sit around in a circle. Whether we're watching TV or whatever's going on, we're watching a sporting event. We're still sitting around in a circle, interacting with each other as we go along. But there's how it builds intimacy into something that you may be doing, a sporting event, a social event, out at a concert or something like that. Now, at a concert, you can't help but sit side by side. But here's what I do when we try to go to a sporting event or a concert: we get 4 seats in front, 4 seats behind. You know what I mean? So that we're there and we can turn around and talk to one another, and we're there involved, rather than everybody all in the same row and you have to shout down the way to try to, get intimate with somebody, right? So really, I never would have considered it, but it also points out that it's up to us as men to, build that intimacy in the relationship. Like Steve was saying about this woman he was with, who was, kind of challenging him or competition with him, because they were always at each other. They're not, close or face to face. I have conversations with my partner all the time, right? So we're very much in tune with one another. We're very much, partners. It's the only way I can describe it. I'd love to believe we're equal partners. We're different in so many ways, so we complement each other in that way. And so there's where it's up to us as men, absolutely, to put the intimacy in the relationship in the best way we can as men. It's difficult for us. I will say that. But if we don't do it, because that's what your partner wants, they want that intimacy. Look, we all want sex, and you know what? In my 30s, our relationship was deeply intimate in that way. We had, an abundance of sex is the only way I can describe it. But here I am, almost 50, and yeah, we have sex, but it's not as prevalent. It's not as, I need you. I need to have this. We don't communicate in that way anymore. Not to say we don't have sex. We still have a great sex life. It's just not as dominant as it was when we were in our young, youthful 30s, right? So, I think we grow that way, but it's still, again, if we want to carry on that relationship, it's up to us as men to come to that place where women want us to be.
So what do you? Oh,
To that point, actually, if I could build on that, RJ, because I think a point that you shine light on there is like, the entanglement between sex and intimacy. Like if you ask a man, like, what does intimacy mean to you? I'd be curious, right? Like I don't actually know, but I would hypothesize that like your average everyday dude is gonna, like, if you ask what intimacy is, sex is going to be somehow involved in that answer, right? So it's almost like you have to take it, if we take it apart to put it back together, kind of thing. Because like you said, in your relationship, sex isn't everything. It's part of it. It is a form of intimacy. There's an incredible, right? It's like an incredible force of energy and connection that we get to experience through sex, especially through sex with a partner, right? Where it's like a deeply connected bond. But if we separate the two, what's your definition of intimacy, right? And then like, how do you experience intimacy in the bedroom, but versus how do you also experience intimacy in other forms of your life? Curious kind of like what the everyday dude says to that. And if part of this work that we're doing and having conversations like this helps reframe the traditional idea around intimacy and like what the world looks like if we learn how to tap into intimacy in other spaces, like the way that you go to concerts or the way that you are in relationship with the other people in your life. Because like, are we projecting too much on our sex life or on our idea of sex? And then therefore, are we projecting too much like onto the women that we're having sex with, right? Or partners that you're having sex with if you're not having sex with women, right? Just an interesting thing to think about, the entanglement between like romance relationship and just interpersonal relationship.
Mm-hmm. No, totally get it. And you know, look, as men, we're not into that deep intimacy. You know what I mean? That closeness, that bond. That's what women want. They want that bond, right? They want that. In fact, love. Have you ever watched Love Guru with Mike Myers? And he
No,
uses
actually.
this intimacy. He says it's into me I see. In other words, that's what women want. They want you to be into them. They want you to be deep involved in whatever. Look, it may be, they may want to talk about their sewing. They may want to talk about the cooking or baking that they're doing, the house that they're cleaning. They want you to be there for them and just listen, just be, in tune with them. That's what they want. But we as men can't quite grasp that, right? We don't want that. You know what I mean? We want that. Okay, you know what? I need some. I need, I want you, but I don't want all that rigmarole that goes along with it. I don't want that closeness. So how do we get beyond that as men, right? For me, it really wasn't that difficult. I want to know about people. I want to be involved with people. So it really wasn't that difficult. But again, I do see it as men. You know what I mean? There's still that trait that I'd rather get past all that and just get a little closer, right? A little more physically involved. And I think as men, we all want that, but we still have to understand the person that we're trying to get close to, right? So, and there's why being into me is what they want. Try and embrace that. Try and give that to them. Try and spend some quality time rather than intimate time. And whereas we as men see that intimate time as I want some sex. I want you. And so it's hard to get past that as men. It really is. But I think we can do it. I know I can. I can't speak for other people out there.
If I may, I there is something that really comes up with what Josh said in the beginning, with the way you position yourself next to a person. What I've seen a lot of times, because I'm really into body language, so what really happens in the dating world, for example, if you approach a woman, you're never going to go straight forward. You're always going to come from the side to not be too threatening to them. Usually that doesn't work. So if you put it on the side, that doesn't work neither, because then you're friend zone in 2 or 3 minutes. But what I found out was that if you start and put yourself like half next to them and half in front of them, usually you get more interest from women when you do that. So what I think that what I'm trying to say is, you don't have to position yourself as a person that really wants a date right now, but not as a friend neither. But if you position yourself as something, well, a little bit mysterious between both of them, you can actually make an impact right there, right in at that moment. And I'm just talking from the beginning there. Um, when that is done, when you can actually go on to a next date or anything, well, then it's when you can start to put yourself heart to heart and in front of each other and talk heart to heart. A lot of men don't want to do that, but honestly, what do you think, guys? What would be the most attractive? A guy that is actually coming and being all masculine and, yeah, I did this and I did that and I'm all of, you know the kind, right? So if a guy, well, I would say like me, comes over and says, well, I kind of like you, but I'm not too sure about myself, so I'm really interested in you. Let's see where this goes. Might actually be more interesting than a guy who's all over the place. Don't know.
Yeah, I haven't been in the dating scene in a while, but I can say this. You know what? We do have to find a balance, because
Yeah.
a woman is, look, as what all we're taught in child in youth is that we have to have that certain amount of alpha in us. You know what I mean? We have to be able to approach the woman. We have to be a little bit sure of ourselves. Otherwise, that relationship, like you said, you're going to end up in the friend zone because she doesn't feel that confidence. She doesn't feel that vibe that you want her, so she's not going to want you. There has to be some kind of bravado. There has to be some kind of advance there, right? Like she's going to have to. I've seen men, walk up, hit on a girl, they're just confident, sure of themselves, and through charisma, through charm, through sexual appeal,
Yeah.
The woman's all over that, right? She wants more of that. So we do have to have a certain male bravado. You know what I mean? We do. Um, Otherwise, we are going to end up in that friend zone, and which, I mean,
Yeah.
look, maybe that's the relationship you're supposed to carry on with this person, but you got to try, right? As men, we got to try.
Yeah. The only thing that I'm not saying that you don't need to be masculine or that you don't need to be like an alpha male or whatever. I don't believe in alpha males whatsoever. Um, I do think that you need to be masculine, but you can be masculine and be vulnerable at the same time because it has nothing to do with each other.
Hmm. Hmm.
And to me, for example, how I usually am is I'm pretty stoic. So when I'm in front of someone and I don't show anything usually, but when I'm with that woman that really interests me, I'm going to tell her that I'm into her. A lot of guys don't do that. They're not open to it. It's actually fun because I see a lot of guys actually saying, I can understand women. They're all trying to give me hints, but I don't understand what hint they're giving me. And we actually do exactly the same thing. We don't talk, and they need to know. But if you just open up and say it, but what is fun for me, what works best for me is when I actually start telling them, but not showing them immediately, because they wonder what the hell is going on. So I'm still getting interest out of them. They try to know me more of what is going on there. But if I'm showing everything and I'm saying everything, well, then I'm just an open book. That's not interesting.
It's an interesting balance, right? And Steve, I don't know if you're in the dating world. RJ, congratulations for not being in it for a while. I'm in it, man. And like single dude in my 30s, right? Fresh in the dating scene.
Mhm.
And I think like to both of your points, there's this balance, but something that I've learned over time. I mean, first of all, like 33, right? Like dating women now versus go back like 10 years ago and probably even like a little less than that, right? Like when I was single in college or single in my 20s, at least the way that I was like indoctrinated into masculinity is like I wasn't trying to date women, I was trying to sleep with women. Like that was
Yeah.
the goal, right? Like that was the school that I was a student of, was like especially in college, right? It's like we party as much as possible and we sleep with as many women as possible. That's the goal all the time. That's how you earn your stripes, right? That's how you earn your brotherhood. That's how you earn your worthiness, all of that stuff. And, I think like whether I actually like whether that was in alignment with like what I truly value in my life or in my relationships or not, at a certain point, I'm just like this is the world I'm in, right? Like this is how I earn my stripes. This is how I survive. At a certain point, you start to believe it, right? Like you start to just live by this code. And so then, a series of like going through that, actually registering like, does this feel good or not, right? Like, is this actually making me happier, making me more fulfilled, making me feel complete, and like I'm living the life that I want, yes or no? Knowing that answer well before actually then like living the truth of the answer, right? Because for a while you still got to impress your boys and be part of the crew. But then through actually like being in real relationship with women and like actually, meeting another human being heart to heart, spirit to spirit, right? Spending that real time together. And then being challenged by those relationships of like, when it's time to be heart to heart, do I actually know how to do that, and I've been able in some relationships to only get so far, to then as to have, the woman in front of me be like, all right, dude, like now I need like the heart stuff, like we've got like the connection, we've got the sex, we've got the passion, we've got the adventure. Now I need the heart. Me being like, well, fuck, like I don't know how to give you more. I don't know how to give you that, right? And so then it's like practicing being in that, and that is a different form of intimacy. It's Steve, to your point, right? It's like there is a manliness about like being grounded in yourself, being grounded in who you are, what you want, carrying yourself in a certain way that is like kingly, right? But also honestly in those moments of, hey, I'm scared, hey, I'm not sure, hey, I'm suffering, hey, I'm hurting, to feel that, to experience that, and to not share it, whether you're showing it or telling it or both, to your partner. I mean, any initiated woman is going to feel it anyway. Like the energy doesn't lie, and initiated women know how to read your energy. They know they can see you and feel you without what you're saying. And so if what you're saying is not what you are actually living, she's going to call you, like she's going to catch you on that shit. Right. And I used to be very big and so like, babe, I'm fine. What do you mean? Am I fine? Are you fine? I'm fine. What are you talking about? I'm told, what's up? Like, what's up with you? I'm not upset. I'm not sad. You're sad. And that's just projecting and deflecting away my own shit onto her. And like, she's too smart for that, So to tie it back to dating now, I think the whole like, alpha male, friend zone, like all of these terms are, I think if anything, they're more harmful than good, only because they create this idea like, if you have a bunch of guys running around, like not trying to get caught in the friend zone, which for them translates to like, don't be myself, right? Or like, don't be sensitive, or don't speak up when I'm feeling a certain way. That's a net negative for society, right?
True.
And if you have a bunch of dudes trying to figure out, well, how do I be the alpha? I gotta walk across the room and push the other dude out of my way and step in her face and be like, hey, baby, what's up? Like if that's not you, then don't do that shit. And so if these terms can create the risk of a bunch of dudes trying to live as if they are something that they are not, net negative, right? Because then that's a lot of women that don't get to meet the real men that we are.
That's it. Yep.
I agree.
And that's exactly what it boils down to. You know what I mean? It's who are you on the inside, right? Because what are you looking for when you approach this woman? What are you looking for? Because I mean, we could be that young jock type. I've got to get this girl. I got to impress. I got to show up. And you'll get lucky more times than not. You'll find a woman who's into you. You take her home. You have that satisfaction. Awesome. But at the end of the day, what are you looking for? Are you looking for that intimacy, or are you just looking for another one time, right? Another couple nights. Because look, that's great. We all want our sex. We want, that joy and satisfaction that comes with it. But honestly, that intimacy, that person, like you said, where the woman's in tune with you, right? Where you're expressing, like she's telling you these things that are going on, and you're like, no, look, I'm all right, everything's cool, you know what I mean? But she feels a different vibe. Now, she either feels that you're withdrawn, right? You're not telling her everything that's going on, or you're not that into her, right? You're not into the long term. You're not into the same thing that she's into. So she's going to toss you aside or move on, right? Or you're going to end up in a stuck relationship that's not going anywhere. You may have great passion, but you don't have good connection, right? So really, it boils down at every stage of our life, we go through different experiences. And look, we're all going to get older at some point. Josh, you're still a young man. Enjoy it while you can. You know what I mean? Enjoy all that passion that comes along with that. But at some point, I'm sure you're going to be looking for that long term, that person who's going to spend a life with you. And that takes a different attitude. It takes a different type of male to approach that or to consider that, right? That, we have to grow up at some point and become that person that woman is looking for, because almost all women want to get married and live that life. So are you going to be the man to step into that role for her, right? And we do have to change, as much as we want to still remain youthful and remain, alpha, and well, not necessarily alpha, but we want to still be in control. We want to be a boy. We want to be a man who's respected by our men. And we have to consider, is that the value we're looking for, right? Is that where we want to go? And you know what? Look, I see 50, 60-year-old men who've never been married, still pimping it, basically, you know what I mean? And they may be happy. I don't know. I don't have intimate conversations with them, because I'm in a space where we're all friends, we're couples, we talk, we share our experiences together. So I'm not talking to many older males who are still single and ready to mingle in their 50s and 60s. So again, we do have to grow up, I think, at some point and decide, what are we looking for in our relationships.
Yeah, I agree with you because for me, for example, I'm 41, and I quit dating for a while because I'm not interested in having just a fling or anything anymore. It takes too much energy to just put it into someone that is not going to be there for a very long time. So right now, I'm just looking out for someone that is really interesting, that actually challenges me in an intellectual way, has humor and a few qualities that usually when I was younger I wouldn't have looked at. While I was in my 20s, it was, oh, I like blondes. I like little blondes. Yeah, all right. Now I don't give a shit about that anymore. Now I'm just looking at, hey, what's going on there? And honestly, when you start looking at that, well, you get a lot less people that are really interesting. And well, that's why I had a few people who were actually clients who proposed certain weird stuff to me, and I didn't go for it. Yee. You guys see me? Nope.
Yep.
You still connected, Steve? So he seems to have lost us.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll see if it comes back in just a second.
So, Linda, what are your thoughts at this point? You've heard a lot from us. I know you facilitate this, but
Oh,
what do you
yeah.
think of our discussion?
I find it interesting, actually, just the dynamics of the dating versus being in an established relationship, and that whole idea about society kind of dictating how you might show up, and then the labels I believe are harmful. I want to be an alpha male, or I want to be the whatever. I think if you just show up for like who you are, like you guys said, that who you are, what you want, and when you're approaching a woman, or you're in a relationship with her, it's like you want to set the stage for finding out what she finds interesting and exciting, and then inviting her to do the same for you, because it's got to be that exchange. Otherwise, it's this one-sided thing, or it's all about one person and not so much the other. And then the physical part of it can take over and be exciting and fun. But what happens when that's gone, right? Or when it's not present? You got to have that connection, and like feel excited to be with the other person, and find things that you enjoy doing together, but then also find the things that you like to do separate from each other, because you don't want to be that person that expects your partner to be everything for you, that all the different things, because one person to be all those things is probably pretty hard. But if you can find the few things that you enjoy doing and appreciate about your partner, you're going to be so much better off, because you're not looking for them to complete you, you're looking for them to complement you. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Linda, you know me for a while right now. I'm pretty big about around needs, the
Mm-hmm.
needs of people, and for a few people that I coached, where I did relationship coaching with, something that I made them do was ask each other what they actually needed from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And well, it at first they're really reluctant to do that because they need to go and dig deep. But it's not that difficult. Usually, everyone has the same needs. They need to be confident about their partner. They need to feel protected, security, feel supported. Name it up. It's not that big of a list. And if you like someone, well, you are gonna do those things. If you're not willing to do those things, it's not the person for you. Then you just need to get out of there and move on. So you're not wasting her time or your time. That's exactly what I'm doing right now, and honestly, I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Mhm. Yeah, you know what? I can honestly say my wife and I, we've been close to calling it quits. Like we were both in a place where, um, questioned what's the value in the relationship? Why are we doing this, right? But then you've got to question how important it is to you, right? Do I want to find another partner? Why am I spending my time with this person? Should I continue this? And then, of course, what does you question everything? What do they bring to the relationship? What am I bringing to the relationship? Do I need to do more to continue this relationship? And then you need to have, like you kind of said, is have those difficult conversations, right?
Yeah,
I don't care what anybody says. A lot of relationships fall apart because they don't tell each other what they truly want, what they need from this relationship. And honestly, um, there are times where you can't continue if you can't speak up, right? That's really what it boils down to. And again, how valuable is this relationship to you? And then again, it also boils down to your own needs, right? What am I
yeah,
getting? What do I want out of this relationship? And then now, how much do I put into this if it's working for me or not working for me?
And being able to have those conversations with someone, that's intimacy, right?
Yep.
Deep communication, which is a form of intimacy, rather than assuming, you know, my wife wants this, my girlfriend needs this, I as a man, I'm supposed to want this, and blah blah blah. If we're not bridging the gap with what we actually want, then we're just living by assumption, and we can get caught up in like living by assumed stories that are just like out in the in the world, in our culture. um like you know, RJ, to what you were saying before, like even saying something like, you know, like women want and need to be talking about a certain thing, and men don't want to be talking about a certain thing, or whatever it is. Like, it's like statistically could be true. Like if you were to survey a whole bunch of folks, like across the board, like probably to some extent, but without actually being there in the one-on-one with each other, how do I know exactly what my partner needs or doesn't need in the situation? Because she might change over time. Her needs might be different on the day we meet than when we're married with 2 children, right? Or whatever. Same way my needs might change over time. And so if we're not, if we're living by assumption, we're actually missing out on a core piece of intimacy, which is like the truth. It's like it's the actual truth, right? Of like, where are you? Here's where I am. Where are you? And then, you know, like you were saying, you know, together we get to decide both for ourselves and as a unit, are we still in this? Do we still want to be in this? What, you know, what are we recommitting to? Like, do we need to renegotiate our commitments to each other, to this relationship? And it's the same deal with friendship. Like it's the same with any relationship that we're in. And so to like bring it back to masculinity and intimacy, question I have is like, can we as men do a better job to teach intimacy to each other? Because I think we like to teach each other like the alpha male bullshit, you know, and we like to teach each other like, you know, oh, yo, and like once you've got her in the bedroom, here's what you got to do. And blah.
Yeah, that's
Biology, like that shit works itself out. Like it's primal. It's in our DNA. We'll figure it out, right? And also, like, we'll figure it out with our partner. Like, let me see what she wants me to do, not what my boys tell me she wants me to do, right? But
totally.
if we're learning that intimacy only looks one way, or we're learning that intimacy is for like, you know, for pansies or for whatever, right? We're missing a great opportunity to actually show up and like be better men, and to be better friends, and to be better partners, and to be better fathers, and to be better brothers. If when I was in college, my homies, if even one dude who I thought was cool, you know, tapped me on the shoulder and was like, hey man, just want to let you know, like, there's going to be a lot of pressure out there, but I just want you to know, like, you're a pretty cool dude. And like, even if you don't get laid tonight, I still think you're pretty cool. Like, you know, like, let's go grab a beer and have a conversation. Or like, yeah, if you ever need anything, if you ever have any questions about like, you know, if you're struggling with anything, if you're ever like doing something you don't want to be doing, just like, you know, you can call on me, man, I got you. Intimacy, tremendous intimacy changes everything. And that's how we as men can teach each other. And we can teach younger men how to bridge the gap between like living in the assumption and living in the truth. Man, that's what I want. Like, that's what I want for our young boys. You know, that's what I want for our next generation, is for us to be better teachers to them of intimacy, of communication.
I love that. That's it right there, is that communication, and not that surface communication, the locker room, you know, that you were kind of talking about, but that deeper, like, hey, I got you if you want to talk about anything. And, you know, it gives another person a chance to open up. And having more of those conversations. If you're doing it, then, you know, they're going to do it, and then they'll teach the other guy how to do it. And then pretty soon everyone's, you know, opening up, communicating, worried less about how society or their brother, like you said, sees you. You're going to be in that space. And isn't that the place you really want to be? I mean, if you can practice doing that with your men friends, well, then it's going to go everywhere in all of your relationships, business, romantic, and otherwise. And so that's a great point there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
listen.
that we don't. Oh, sorry, just yeah.
No, continue.
You got me fired up. I'm sorry. You know, I think part of the reason why we also struggle to be intimate with women, as far as like from a communication standpoint, is also because, if anything, the way that we're taught from our male friends is like intimacy is weakness, right? Or vulnerability is weakness, or communication is weakness. So it's like, I'm good, babe. What are you talking about? Don't worry about it. I'm good. Like, let's have sex. You know, that's when actually in reality, she's giving us an opportunity to be better for ourselves and to be better for her. She's asking us for that, you know?
Yeah.
Opening the door for us to be better. But we are convinced that like our boys are watching watching us and like, oh, I
Yeah.
can't do that. You know, like I can't be vulnerable right now. How are they gonna? Who fucking cares, man? You know. But
Yep. Yep. And you know what? I don't know if you've seen it, but think like a man. Like we're having a great conversation about how to empower our young men and give them ideas on how they can be better in their relationships, be more intimate, right?
Mhm.
We're having this great conversation, but how many people are going to tune into this? But if you ever seen the movie Think Like a Man, it's a Kevin Hart movie. It's a black culture movie. So they're acting like they're boys. And they're all on top of things. You know what I mean? I'm in charge. I got my woman down. Don't worry about that. You know. But honestly, then they end up having to hold each other accountable because the relationship ain't going so right. You know, the woman's in charge. You ain't listening to your woman. You know what I mean? So that whole, how do we get my woman back and you know, be in a place where she's just as into me as I expect her to be. You know, they hold each other accountable. So there's a great lesson for people. If people can check out that movie, Think Like a Man. But again, how many people are going to tune into this conversation? Because this is empowering, what we're talking about right here. And I just wish people would see it just like, you know, just like as valuable as such a movie as Think Like a Man, because there's a pop culture movie that sure is probably caught on with certain, you know, a certain market. But not everybody's going to tune into that. Just like not everybody's going to tune into this. So how do we create this message and cycle this message so that more people, like you said, to empower our young men and boys, or, you know, 17, 18, 20, 25, who really need to hear these kind of conversations? How are we going to get this out to them? How are we going to continue this message? Because look, I love what we're talking about here. This is a deep conversation, and yet what's going to be, where are we going to go with it? Where is it going to hit? You know what I mean?
I think it hits at home to some extent. Yeah, you know, you guys all have mothers, right? I have two sons, and so we talk about how we treat, you know, another person or a girlfriend or, you know, a best friend. And so we talk about, you know, how we should treat the other person, and the whole idea about assumption, you know, letting them know if you're thinking about something that you're wondering, you know, about your girlfriend's thought on something, well, just ask her. And you know, it's okay to say that you're worried or concerned about something or whatnot. And so I mean, half of it is you know, begins as a, you know, in the parent process too. So that's one area. Otherwise, everything that's learned is what you learn when you go to school.
And I
So
don't think enough parents, you know, are able to have these conversations with their youth.
could be.
You know what? I'd love to think my son, you know, he's doing pretty well. I know he's looking for deep, intimate connections because we've shared that. You know, my relationship with his mother has been able to, you know, influence him. I know that. But yet at the same time, we were at Christmas dinner and, you know, his cousin's there and he's got to show up for his cousin. Yo, man, you going to come with me? I'm going to go check out this girl out, you know, when we're done. You know, you're gonna come ride with me. You know, so he's still trying to put that on so he can look at that, you know, that male. I'm in charge. I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean. Meanwhile, he's a shy little charming, you know, young man, right? So he's trying to catch the right girl's eye, but and listen, I swear, the girl who finds him, I bless her because you know she's gonna find a great man. So it starts at home. But at the same time, are we doing enough?
That's right. We could do more.
I think we could always do more. And at the same time, I think, you know, we have to learn how to celebrate what we are doing. Conversations like this, you know, this recording right here, sure, it might not be the next viral sensation, right? It might not be seen by millions and millions of people, but if like one dude sees this and gets something from it, it's huge. If we, even the on this call, take something from one of the other people that we didn't have, you know, or a new perspective or a new angle or a new story to tell, we go back and we share it with our sons. We share it with teams that we mentor. We share it with clients that we work with. We share it with the women in our lives, right? Ripple effect. But yeah, so I think that like teachers, you know, and I don't mean just academically, like in school, but like us as teachers, just by, we are constantly learning, but we always have the chance to be a teacher to someone else, someone that we meet on the street, someone that we mentor, coach, whatever it might be. And I want to say bless the athletes and the rappers and the rock stars who at some point take it upon themselves to be a healthy beacon of masculinity. Like, I love when I see Giannis Antetokounmpo talk about his wife or his kids, or like his relationship with his brothers, or when Steph Curry, shows up with his daughter at press conferences, and you see how much he loves his daughter. And I mean, Kobe Bryant was a wonderful example of, a man who loved his daughters, right? And then the same goes for, men who are there for their sons and are teaching their sons, healthy, true, noble ways to show up as a man in this world. Because I mean, if you have a platform like that, for us to see people who we think are cool, not making it about just getting paid and getting laid, but about being honest and having integrity and being dedicated to yourself and to your wife and to your family, right? That obviously just has it's all a ripple effect. Even this smaller scale conversation is a ripple effect, but someone who's got a bigger wave has a bigger ripple. So I love when I see guys like that carrying a healthy message, and it just inspires me to do that on whatever scale that I know how to do.
Couldn't agree more with that.
Yep. And thank you, Josh, for bringing that out there. You know what? We're all there to do something for others, right? We're there and I think we're all leading by example. I don't think anybody's been dishonest here at all tonight. You know what I mean? Well, this is a conversation where we have to be open in order to have any value whatsoever. So I think we've all been very open in what we're talking about here tonight. And bravo to you guys for doing so in a public forum. Because there's where we have value for somebody who may take that message, whether it's us or whether we're sharing that with somebody else. Only by being so deeply open can we add that value. So, and again, like you say, yes, it's nice. First of all, the NFL, who now and baseball, all sports, mostly who when they have they recognize violence, right, at home or domestic violence, that sort of thing. They're first to call that out and, dismiss these people, fine these people, charge these people, because it can't be allowed, right? These are the type of relationships that we have to cut while we can and teach people a better way to respond and react.
Yeah, and I think that what we should normalize with in the education of children, or even right now with every single man that's on this planet, is normalize the fact that vulnerability is not weakness; it's a superpower. Because honestly, it's not something easy that I talk about, but I've been mishandled by women, by one woman before, and if I wouldn't have shown up vulnerable, I would not have had the help that I got, and I would probably be, maybe not here anymore in a certain way. So the fact that I've been vulnerable about being hit by a woman, it helped me out, and it got me the help that I needed at that moment. So it's if I would have done what most men do and keep it inside, it would have destroyed me. It would have made sure that I didn't get any help, and I would probably have gone from toxic relationship to toxic relationship. So normalizing that vulnerability is a superpower, I think that's really important.
Absolutely. Thank you for admitting that. Listen, we've all been vulnerable here, right? Exactly. Exactly. So bravo to you for doing that in your own life. And then look at us. We're having a conversation that most men would not be open and vulnerable
Absolutely.
enough to carry on.
And so tonight, we get to set the example for that and what we're doing. And I just want to thank each of you for joining us tonight, to have these conversations, to be vulnerable. And at this time, what I'd like to do is to encourage everybody to join the Men's Room Show and Support Group on Facebook. We also have a YouTube channel, the Men's Room Show. And what our plan is to go live each Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what we'd like to do is to do more than actually having the sessions like we're having tonight, the episodes. We actually want to have a weekly support group where we can get together and have these conversations. And, the only way we're going to be able to do that is by men wanting to step forward and be a part of the group. And so we encourage and invite you to come join us, and we can do more of this. And it won't be on camera. We'll just be in a room and have the conversations that want to come out, and we can decide the topics each week. The men can decide what they'd like to bring up, and that's our hope for bringing this to everyone.
Absolutely. And I just want to point out, I laugh because it's funny how we mention Pacific time and Eastern time, the East Coast and the West Coast, as if nobody in Utah or Winnipeg is going to tune into this at all. You know what I mean? It's either we're going to watch it on the East Coast or the West Coast.
Yeah.
Yes, and Steve's in Belgium.
See, there you go. Exactly.
It's 4 o'clock here, 4 a.m. So
I'm familiar with lots of, like, especially AEDT, which is, Australia Eastern Daytime. Like, there's so many different, time zones out there that people can check this out. But look, convert it to your own time zone is what I'm saying, because honestly, it just makes me laugh, because you see that everywhere. It's 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, right? So just to add a little humor to the end of our conversation.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Steve, thanks for being here at 4 o'clock in the morning, man. That's dedication.
Bravo.
no problem.
Absolutely.
It was fun.
And so with that, we'll go ahead and say good night, and let Steve go to bed. And we will be back next week. And so when you see this show, put in the comments what you liked that you heard, things that you will take away, things that you'd like us to go into for next time. We'd love to hear about that. And if you want to be on the panel, hey, we're open to that too.
Yeah, bring your topic to us. Absolutely. Thanks.
Thanks so much, guys.
All right.
Steve,
Thank you.
RJ, it was a pleasure.